What's up, guys? Tom Clark here for BleacherReport.com. Here with Gary Benfield, also known as Viper, owner, promoter of High Velocity Wrestling, each and every week here in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Great show tonight, bro.
Thank you, Tom.
Everything looked great, man. Tell the fans out there who may not be familiar with HVW or with you, how you got started in the business and what led you to this point.
Man, I grew up watching wrestling as a kid, just like a lot of kids, and never imagined that I would do it, that I would ever be a wrestler. And then I just happened to rent a house beside a National Guard armory that had a wrestling show one night. Went in, watched the show, and was like, man, I can do this. Asked the guys how to get involved. They didn't have much of a sound system. They had like a home stereo for a sound system. And at the time, I was like playing in bands and singing in bands, and I had a big PA, and I just traded out some services. Well, I actually started taking bumps with those guys, the UWA, Universal Wrestling Alliance out of Lenore. And it was just shortly after that I was fortunate enough to work a show that had Wahoo McDaniels on it, and me and him got to talking, and I got to go down and work out at the chop shop in Charlotte a little bit.
Your floor sweat, man.
And I drove Wahoo around to some bookings, and in return traded out some training. So, you know, I started with the Universal Wrestling Alliance 15 years ago. Got trained a little bit at the chop shop with Wahoo and Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker. And then, you know, it's just became what's the word I'm looking for? A lifestyle.
Right.
That's what it is, man. It's a lifestyle, Tom. I eat, sleep, and breathe professional wrestling.
What got you to the point? Was there a moment at some point in your career when you said, I got to do my own show, I have to do my own thing? You felt like you had to branch out?
No, I never intended on being a promoter. I had several guys that wanted to train. I was working for Chief J Eagle at APW in Spartanburg, and Chief come to me one day and was like, and to quote the Chief, "Hey buddy, I got a couple guys that want to train and I really ain't got time to do it. You want me to send them your way?" And I didn't even have a ring, but I knew somebody that did. So we started training them in his ring, and my wife bought me a ring for my birthday. And we set it up at my house actually, and I started training the Loaded Guns, Ken Magnum, Satisfaction Adam Jackson, and several other guys in my backyard. When wintertime hit, so I found this little rat shack building, set the ring up in that building, and after those guys got trained and not ready to work a show all the time, but they needed to get in front of a crowd, they convinced me to run a show. And we made a couple flyers and put them around town and had about 20 people show up and made enough money to pay the rent on the building. So we just decided to start doing it on a bi-weekly basis, man. And it wasn't 5 or 6 shows. We were putting more people in that building than should have been in it. I mean, it was to the point where I would go outside and pray to God not to let that building collapse. So it was very dangerous. But hey, about 9.5 years later, here we are. 3 buildings later. So, you know, we've grown a lot. We've accomplished a lot.
You were talking earlier about UWA, which is where we met back in, I think it was 2001. Seems like forever ago now, but really in the town of Lenore, we kind of killed that town because we ran every week and it was non-stop. Did you have a fear when you started running every week that it could happen here? Do you feel like the fan base is still where it needs to be?
You know, man, anybody that runs a weekly show is going to struggle. And unfortunately, when we met at UWA, you know, I don't want to call any names, but the promoter of the company didn't run his company. He let egotistical wrestlers run his company, and that's what run Lenore in the ground. If he would have took control of his company and made the decisions that he wanted to happen, not what his top talent wanted to happen, I strongly feel like UWA could still be in business.
Right. That leads me to my next question is about the politics that go on behind the scenes. And fans read about that stuff online, they hear things about it, but until they get it from someone like you in your position, How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the cutthroat aspect of this business?
Dude, it's ridiculous. And unfortunately, this business is cutthroat. I mean, even tonight, after the success of our show, we had another Fed running 2 miles up the road. You know, and it is what it is. You know, I'm here every week. I'm going to stay here every week. I've built my product in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Hendersonville, North Carolina is the home of high velocity wrestling. I don't care if WWE or anybody else runs a show in Hendersonville. They're going to run a show. They might outdraw me. They might have a bigger crowd. But the bottom line is next week they're not here. I am. And, you know, so it's ridiculous, man, because the world of professional wrestling didn't become what it is because the Crockett's and the Armstrongs and, you know, the Von Erichs hated each other. They worked together, man, and they built a damn territory. And the territory was so big that Vince was scared and bought them out and shut them down. And these other indie promotions around here, if they could get their head out of their butt and we could all work together and not worry about, well, my guy's got to be the champion or my guy's got to be the champion, man, we could really bring the territory of professional wrestling back.
And that was an era that thrived in the business. Some of the best times when I was growing up was watching, like you said, Jim Crockett Promotions. And you had that feeling of one champ that would tour the world really, and present himself in all these different promotions and work every guy there. But there was, at the end of the day, one guy. You think you're missing that on the local level for one guy to go around and be a drawing card?
By far. And you know, the thing about it is, Tom, that there's some great wrestling talent on the indie circuit, man. There's, you know, and even the guys that ran down the road tonight, they got a hell of a locker room full of guys, man. And we got a good locker room full of guys. And it's a shame that we can't work together, man. You know, and you know, I want to give a shout out to Dean Puckett and Tim Dolan, man, that have started this AIWF thing. And basically what they're trying to do is build the territory. And the AIWF could be big, man, but the problem they have, and I don't mean this as a shoot, but I feel like they worry too much about trying to bring more companies into the AIWF than they do promoting what AIWF could be. You know, there should be, I mean, they do have AIWF champions, but, you know, they have well over 200 promotions that's a part of the AIWF. They have promotions overseas that are a part of it. Send these guys on the road, man. You know, if you want them to represent AIWF, pay them and send them on the road. Let them represent your product.
Similar to the National Wrestling Alliance.
Yes, it's the Allied Independent Wrestling Federation. HVW is a part of it, and we've yet to have an AIWF champ. I was the AIWF North American champion for a while, but you know, I would hit other promotions up and be like, hey, I'm the AIWF North American champ. I'd like to bring the title to your company, and nobody book us. You know, they want you to come work for free.
Right. Talking about the challenges on the local level, when you think about that in terms of where the business was and where it is right now on our level here, do you see a chance in the future where guys could actually come together, or is that just not going to happen? Is it possible?
I don't know, man. You know, promoters believe that their product is the best. And until we can put a sanctioning body together, you know, just like the NWA had,
right.
You know, it's never going to work unless you took, say, 4 promoters that own 4 different companies and they sat down with individuals that were not involved with either company and we all came to the same agreement. And until that happens, it's not going to work, man, because I truly feel like HVW is the best Fed in Western North Carolina. I'm sure they feel their Fed is. I'm sure the other guys feel their Fed is. And it's a shame because it could be big business. You know, I hear through the grapevine that They had about 200 people up there. We had a little over 200 people here tonight. So if we was working together, that's close to 500 people on a show that, and we all could have made money instead of dividing the crowd. You know what I'm saying? And it hurts the fans too, because it makes the fans choose where they want to go. And it shouldn't be that way.
Well, you've done a heck of a job here at HVW, branding yourself, and like you said, letting the local folks here in Harrisonville know about you. You mentioned WWE earlier. Talk about your association over the past few years with WWE and what's happened there.
Man, it's just was one of those things that I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, man. HVW was in a process of moving from our second building to this building, and I had a couple young trainees that just come out of training, and I thought, well, you know, man, these guys, they were young and they were small and they weren't ready to be, you know, mid-card talent or heavyweight champions. And so I said, we got to come up with something to put these guys on the show because they're ready. So we advertised them as the next generation of professional wrestling, the NXT division. We even had an NXT title. And, you know, then I hear that WWE is developing the NXT program. And then not thinking that anything would ever come of it, I had a guy here type up some emails and send them. Got a call from John Laurinaitis offering to buy the NXT product. And you know, I told John, I said, John, I'm more than willing to hand you guys the NXT, but I don't want money. I want to do business with WWE. So I negotiated some stuff, and you know, and it's got a good working relationship with WWE. A lot of my guys have had an opportunity to go, you know, work as extras. You know, I got to actually play Paul Bear one night and get beat up by Kane, and that was, you know, that was a lot of fun. And you know, so and now that anytime WWE comes in North Carolina to do TV and they look for extras, you know, they call me and let me, hey, we need 4 guys, or we need 5 guys, and I will send some guys down for them.
And speaking of WWE, what's happening right now on their level, on Ring of Honor and TNA's level? What do you see right now that's really working, that you're happy about? What do you see that maybe could be done better at this point?
In all reality, Tom, man, I think WWE is killing their own product. In my opinion, they have almost 90 guys on their roster, man. They have 70-some guys at FCW. I mean, good talent wrestlers, man. And they've changed their program to 3 hours, and they're highlighting 6 to 8 guys on a 3-hour program. And you can't tell me that I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. You know, and Ring of Honor, I'm not a fan of it. You know, it makes no sense to me. I'm an old school wrestler, man. I like to tell the story. Ring of Honor wrestling, don't get me wrong, is very exciting to watch. It's real high impact and stuff, but they don't tell the story that we tell in the South. You know what I mean? It's a lot of one big move after another, and then it don't make sense to me. I love the direction TNA's taking, man. With, you know, I really like James Storm, Bobby Roode, man. I really like those guys, and I think TNA is going to be a force to reckon with. I really do.
Talking about, again, going back to your association with John Laurinaitis and WWE and everything, you've had the opportunity to bring in some guys in HVW in recent years. What's been your favorite guy to bring in so far? The one you've enjoyed the most working along with and having inside your company?
Man, I mean, personally, for me, the first time we did business with Abyss was absolutely phenomenal, man. I went and picked him up from the airport in Charlotte and drove him all the way to the show, and then he had TNA pay-per-view the very next day, so I drove him all the way back to Charlotte that night. And just, you know, hanging out with Abyss, and we developed a really good relationship, kept in contact with each other. We brought him in a couple months later, and he actually stayed at my house. And we, you know, just had a lot of fun, man. And it was, you know, unfortunately, we've kind of lost touch over the years, but I'd have to say Abyss has been my favorite to have in HVW. Favorite to work was by far Buff Bagwell. But man, I really enjoyed wrestling Buff. it was great. It was like we known each other forever. Stepped in the ring, went 20 minutes, put on a really, really good match, and the fans loved it.
And Buff's always had that image. He's always had negative press. Now, did you get any of that from
Dude,
him?
I'm telling you, dude, Buff came in and was the easiest guy I've ever worked with. Now, you know, the first time he came in. The second time we brought him back. Very easy to work with, but, you know, some of the negative press that you heard, you know, the issues, you know, I got phone calls before asking if I could find stuff, and, you know, I don't want to bury the guy.
No, I get you. Yeah. Who's out there right now that maybe is not under contract to one of the two big companies that you would love to see get in here? Somebody that you're salivating over, you'd love to have in your room. Is there anybody out there like that right now? Or maybe that is still under contract to one of the two companies that you would love to see here in Hendersonville and HVW room?
You know, there again, man, I would love to have James Storm or Bobby Roode a part of HVW one night. I love both their styles. You know, dude, there's a little fed out of Charlotte called Pro Wrestling Evo that has a freaking phenomenal locker room, man. But there again, it's more of a Ring of Honor style, but they still keep their traditional good guy, bad guy type match. A lot of high flying, a lot of fast paced stuff, but they stick to that formula.
Right.
And there's, you know, Caleb Condon, the Man Scout, Cedric Alexander, you know, just a ton of guys, man. Zach Salvation. Those guys are phenomenal talents, and I'd like to see them grace our presence someday.
And there again, that goes back to your point, your initial point about if everybody could just work together and get along. Imagine the business you could do with them going down to help them coming up to help you.
It'd be crazy.
And getting the word spread.
It'd be crazy.
Is there something about, and a lot of fans, they just love the business. Like any fan of any other sport out there, you like to feel like you're part of it. You want to absorb as much as you can. Is there something about the business that maybe fans don't know about on the local level? Something they'd be surprised to know, something that they've not heard before, something that maybe surprised you when you got into owning your own promotion?
I think the biggest surprise for the fans are, you know, we're just like them. You know, we work 9 to 5 jobs every day just like they do. You know, a fan, they pay to watch us on Saturday nights. And in their eyes, you know, we're larger than life. You know, we're superheroes in their eyes. But what they don't know is come Sunday morning, we're just like them. Come Monday morning, we get up and go to work just like they do. We come home and take care of kids and, you know, wives and, you know, mow grass, and, you know, we don't live the lifestyle like the bigger professional wrestlers do. You know, I think that'd probably be the biggest shock. You know, I run into fans out in public all the time, and I always hear, I didn't know you worked, or I didn't know you was married. You know,
yeah,
brother, I work just like you do.
Right. I remember a conversation we had. You may not remember this, but it was 10, 11 years ago at Shawnee's after a show one night. It was just you and me that night having breakfast on a Saturday night at like midnight or something, whatever it was. And I remember you saying that night that the only thing you wanted to do is make it look as good as you could, to give everything you had to the business. Is that, in other words, the passion, is everything still there today as it was back then?
Probably more nowadays, because the owner of a company, you know, and call it egotistical, call it what you want, but I'm the type of guy that I'm not going to do anything halfway. I want the best. If I can't have the best, I'm going to do everything I can to make what I do have look like it's the best. You know, I don't want people to leave here and say that was a joke or I wasted my money. I want people to leave here and say, wow, that was more than I could ever expect. You know, I didn't expect the lights. I didn't expect the entrance videos. I didn't expect the backstage promos coming up over the Titantron. You know, I want to give fans an independent wrestling experience that they'll never forget. I don't want the fans to leave my show and be disappointed. So I strive. Man, just like last night for this show, I set up till wee hours of the morning typing out a script, you know, working on the Scotty Too Hottie video that we played tonight, you know, working on just the Salvation Army commercials, you know, hit Jeff up first thing this morning about getting stuff done for the day, and it's, you know, man, it never stops. My life revolves around this. I give my family Sundays. Sunday is family day. I don't talk wrestling. I don't answer the phone. I don't talk on Facebook. We don't deal with wrestling on Sundays. Monday through Saturday, man, my life revolves around HVW.
Definitely a passion for you, I know. Fans out there that are watching, tell fans why they should go support their local independent promotion, because I think a lot of, and I was guilty of this too. I grew up watching like everybody else, like we all did, but my image of local pro wrestling was, well, they're small time, they're small potatoes, it's not going to be what I see on TV. The first time I went to see UWA in person, I was hooked. And especially when I got backstage with you guys, I said, I've got to do this. This is something I got to do. So why should fans sitting at home, so they just put all that stuff out of their head and go see their local promotion?
You know what, man? It's if you have a local promotion, support it, because, you know, since Vince bought WCW and shut it down, that's all we have. We have that, and we have TNA, and TNA. Even though their show's great, they're still not on the level of WWE. You know, nowhere close to that level. So, if you're tired of watching WWE, or you're tired of watching 3 hours of wrestling to see 45 minutes of wrestling and the rest is talking and bullcrap, you're going to have to go support your indie guys. And I promise you, man, here's the problem with indie wrestling today, Tom. It's so easy to get on the internet and find a ring, or, you know, be able to buy cheap belts or whatever. So anybody that comes up with a couple $1,000s can buy a ring and call herself a promoter and don't have a freaking clue, man. You know, it's just like UWA. The first show I ever seen them, their ring announcer was holding a little guitar amp in his hand with a mic plugged into it, and that's how they were announcing their matches, man. And that, dude, if I walked into a building and seen that, the first thing I'm going to say is, really, you know, this is what it is. You know, that's the sad part. Do your homework. Find out about your indie fans, you know, because you know, like around here, within an hour and a half drive, there's 3 or 4 different promotions running. Do your homework, man. Find out which one's the best, and go see them and support them.
I'm going to wrap it up here with you, bro, but tell fans where they can find HVW online. Where are you located right now? Where are you at?
Man, unfortunately, we don't have a website, but we do have Facebook page. Just find, you know, High Velocity Wrestling on Facebook. And somehow or another, there's 2 different pages. One of them, and they're both this company, but one of them's got a bunch of old pictures that don't exist. The new page has the new red, yellow, and black logo on it, you know, High Velocity Wrestling at Facebook or whatever it is. Or find myself, Gary Benfield, on Facebook, and you can link to the HVW page off of mine. Or you can find my partners, Jeff Naylor, on Facebook, link to it off of his. We're working on the web. We actually have the domain name, but we just can't find anybody to build the site for us right now.
Well, bro, we appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Love you, man. Thank you as always.